everyone. Welcome to Work Love Wednesday. Today we have Smelter here for Work Love Wednesday. It is time for Work Love Wednesday. Good morning, Facebook. It is Wednesday, which means it is time for Work Love Wednesday. It is 7:45 a.m. here on the East Coast, and happy Wednesday to you. There is sunshine. We are on our way to spring, and it's pretty awesome. So today I feel very compelled to really just kind of dive into this topic that I highlighted on Facebook, but for those of you on Instagram, I want to talk about intentions in relationships, because this came up a couple of times for me this week in different capacities, whether watching it with other people, having conversations with other people, but really, really relevant. On top of that, I think I've shared this before, but I am known for having very vivid dreams with very vivid imagery that I can remember in very big detail. And last night I just happened to have a dream about having a huge fight with somebody in my life. Totally not real. There's no even premise for it to be real currently. In the past, the way the relationship has worked, there could be conflict, but it really, once again, honed in even more so the intention behind relationships. And I don't think that we talk about that enough. I think that we as humans have an innate calling to connect with people, whether we want to or not per se, based off of our personality. I think it still is a natural kind of instinct that we embrace. And so we kind of can loosely begin connecting, and without even, not consciously for most of us, enter into relationships without really being clear on our intention, and therefore not really being able to understand the impact or influence or outcome that potentially can happen from that relationship. And so as a HR practitioner, as a empath, somebody who's really in tune with how people are feeling, and that blend there, it should be no surprise that I'm a huge people watcher. I love looking at the relationship dynamics. I love looking at the almost cause and reaction in the sense of feelings that happen for people. And they're different for everyone. And so one of the most fascinating things about working with teams or leaders or professional work environments is we need all these differences to make these amazing products and services and organizations. Yet we're dealing with a blend of individuals in another context of relationships that potentially we've never really talked about or set intention. I mean, if you think about it, let's just keeping it strictly professional. You go to a professional environment with the intent of working, and so the relationships are pretty much professional lines that are there. So you are going to work, and you know you're going to have a relationship with your boss. You're going to go to work, and you know that you're going to have a relationship with your coworkers or teammates that are going to help you get your project done. But at the end of the day, for most of us, a lot of scenarios, we spend more time with our colleagues, our coworkers, than we do our families, especially if we're very imbalanced. And for some of us, just because on the profession that we chose, we have to spend a large amount of time at the work environment, the office, the wherever, whether it's a manufacturing plant, a hospital, whatever. But we end up spending a lot of time with these people. These people become one of our primary go-to places to start connecting. And we kind of loosely enter into them without any true intention. Or do we enter with an intention? I guess that's kind of my subliminal question as we talk about this. And so I think one of the things that really bubbled up for me as to why I'm going on this initial kind of rant about the professional environment is yesterday I was walking through an organization that I get to walk through fairly frequently, and watching the dynamics of the employees interacting with the clients. And there's been a pattern that's kind of shown up over the last probably 6 to 9 months of the changes in the dynamics of those relationships. So basically, those that are on staff become more and more casual with the client. And then as that happens, the casualness leads to unprofessional kind of dynamics that then sends ripples. And then it just so happens that most of those people end up leaving the organization. So it correlates to the turnover. For someone like me, it's interesting because I'm always asking myself in my head, is that employee disengagement happening? Like, is the cues in the relationships professionally between them and the client, between them and their coworkers, is that a sign that disengagement is happening? I would say yes. But, look around your own organizations and see how those relationship dynamics are changing. And what could that possibly be saying about what's happening in the organization or people's engagement levels? Now, let's shift this over to the greatest lesson playground that we have available to us, which is our personal lives. And I've always been a big component of this. If we can't do things in our personal life, we're really not going to be focused on those relationships in our professional life. Because let's face the facts, in our personal life, we've picked essentially those people that are going to be meaningful to us, who are going to be where we're going to focus. And when we get to choose where we spend our time, that's where we go. So if we're going to emotionally invest or physically invest or invest any time and energy into a relationship, more than likely it's going to be on the personal side before we ever get to investing in any kind of relationship in a professional context. But even on the personal side, relationships happen naturally. You meet people fairly frequently, possibly every single day. I know in my business, we get connected when you're building networks. You meet people every single day, and it's easy for those people to translate over onto the personal side. But at the same token, and this has just happened, I shouldn't say quite a bit recently. I mean, it happens to everybody. But looking at in the situations where I have been, I guess, just hurt is the word, hurt by the dynamics in relationships, it made me back up and have the awareness of what was my intention entering into a relationship and what was the other person's intention. And I think that's more so what I want to talk about, because I've talked about before in relationships, our ability to own 50% if we want to resolve conflict and make them work. We can own that 50% and go into those relationships in that fashion. But at the same time, and a lot of us have a hard time handling the fact of, what if the other person doesn't want to meet me 50%? And we have to make some hard decisions on if that's a relationship for us, if that's something that we want to engage in conflict and try to resolve. But we have to make that kind of call when we hit the 50-50. We can't go over the 50, or then we have a relationship where somebody can really take advantage of us. It's got to be this, for the most part, balance. So yes, there's some give and take, especially in marriage and romantic relationships or really intimate relationships. We'll see that, whereas one person has to carry the other for a little bit, but it should never be predominantly one way or another. It should be fairly balanced, that we're on average about 50-50 showing up both ways. And people have a hard time saying, well, what if this person that I really care about is not showing up 50% of the way, and I have to make that call? But now I think today I want to talk about challenging thinking about the other person and why they may not be showing up at that 50%, or why you may be seeing them only at a 10 or 20%. And I think that I don't like to think about it because I don't like to think about not people not having the best intention in the world, but me not being as high of a priority to them as they are to me. And that's just kind of how the world works. You know, everyone's got life, everyone's got their own kind of mini chaos that they're managing and coordinating. And you don't know what that is. You don't know what they're navigating on a daily basis, and then how you fall into that picture. You also don't know how far along they are in their own personal development or their own kind of self-healing journey or their self-discovery process. You don't even fully understand what role you play in that journey for them. You know, if you're doing a lot of work around your own personal healing and self-reflection, you'll know a lot of the time how those people are either triggering you, showing up, and serving as a growth tool for you. We don't know what's happening on the other side. And very rarely do you go and have a cup of coffee and say, hey, let's talk about how we're triggering each other and how we're truly each other's growth partners in life because of whatever dynamics are coming into play in this relationship. But they happen all the time and they change. So as we change and evolve, those relationships change and evolve. And so today I'm really challenging you to think about, what is the other individual's intention? Those who are truly kind of, let's say, rubbing you the wrong way, causing you unnecessary stress or hurt or pain, and that's how it's triggering you, or that's how you're reacting, and that's how you're feeling. What possibly is their reason for not showing up at 50%? What is possibly their reason or their intention? Because I think that's very important information for you to take, for you to make decisions on if you're going to continually invest energy in there, or where they fall on your priority spectrum per se. And so there have been people that I have labeled as really close friends, and I've had the rude awakening, not from them causing it, but from me actually realizing that there was a gross disconnect and dissonance in my intentions going to the relationship and their intentions going to that relationship. And sometimes when we have this blend of personal, professional, where we heavily network and we connect with people all the time, and we throw out friendships, and we do get to know each other very well professionally, sometimes that line between professional kind of colleague or part of our professional network and friend, it starts to turn into this kind of messy gray area and blend. And I think in a lot of those scenarios, a lot of us can start to think that we have friendships where the other person is still maintaining a professional context, and for whatever reason. I mean, there's so many reasons why someone might do that. It could be even a strict personality characteristic per se, that they have only a close-knit group of friends and they have to have that network to be successful professionally, and they're there to connect and have that kind of established relationship with you, but they're not interested in having an intimate, true kind of friendship. And then people are upset when someone doesn't keep up to date as frequently as possible, or doesn't let them in on things before they see them posted on Facebook or on Instagram, because they were under the impression that you were closer friends than they really are. And I think we don't start relationships having expectations about what that relationship is going to be like. The only situation where that might be different is romantically. And I see that maybe later on in life, as we are very clear on what we want romantically, setting those expectations out front so that we know, make sure we don't go down the wrong path with someone thinking that we're expecting something different. So very heavy topic. I know it's heavy for me because I've had some rude awakenings of my own this past week, and some that I'm still actively struggling with, just because I can dissect certain events and not really fully understand why a person would do this if they did not care, but then are doing this. That shows that they clearly don't care. But so navigating all of that I think it's just really important sometimes to back up and realize that your intention going into a relationship does not always match up the other person's intention. And so when we're routinely having an issue where we're not coming together and meeting at this 50-50 mark, which essentially that's when things feel off, when things feel wrong, when you feel betrayed, when you feel unloved or unworthy. It's when someone's not meeting you at that 50% on average, and really great relationships, it shifts both ways. People have bad days, bad months, and sometimes you have to help be there more for that person that month. But then rightfully so, when you have that month, they should be coming there as well. But when you find these relationships that are routinely one-sided, you got to ask yourself. The one last piece that I will add is as far as an example, if you're on LinkedIn and you watch LinkedIn, you'll see rants about this all the time, about people who connect, and this is a professional network, and then instantly move on to pitching and sales, and wanting to take that connection and then instantly see if they can have a conversation with you to sort through if you potentially can be a new customer. And there's a big kind of internal debate about that. I shouldn't even say internal, but a big debate between, LinkedIn is meant for connecting. So connect with me, get to know me, have a relationship with me before you sell me. Now, I'm sure those who are selling probably have a different perspective, but that's all a difference in expectations and intentions. And now what's happened is a lot of these people have set the expectations like people do romantically. I'm here to build relationships, not to just get a sales pitch. So if you're just going to do a sales pitch, don't reach out to me, don't connect with me. And so it's a really interesting dynamic that we've seen get very loud, and is very out there so that you can see it live in action. But that is what's happening in all of our relationships. So, a lot of this is challenging you to maybe take the next week and see if you can look at the relationships around you with a different lens, especially those that are proving challenging to you, but also those that are really nourishing and feeding you and holding you up. Shifting the lens in this fashion allows you to have a whole new appreciation for those who truly are there for you, who truly are showing up at that 50%. And when you realize how much their relationship is basically feeding your soul and your ability to basically tolerate all those others that are not showing up at the 50%, you just have a newfound sense of gratitude for that. And I know that it's true because in a lot of my relationships where they're like that, even with Mary Rose, even with Josh, when you have that newfound sense of gratitude, you almost have these random, what I call mushy moments, where you just feel the need to be grateful for somebody who is showing up for those 50%. And in fact, those mushy moments happen for me a lot when I'm experiencing someone else not showing up at that 50% where I had the expectation that they would, and then having the realization that their intention for that relationship is probably not the same as mine. So that is my Work Love Wednesday. As always, if you hop on and watch today, because this morning we have nobody on live, which probably means it's a busy morning. So I hope that whatever chaos that you woke up to, or whatever your morning routine is, or that you decide to watch later on, I hope you had a great Wednesday. And if you do watch, make sure you say hello so I know that you watched. And let me know your thoughts or how this kind of landed on you in regards to this topic. And then also, as always, if you have a question or a topic idea, go ahead and send them in, and I'll be happy to chat about them. I won't call you out, but I will happily chat about them. And you can do that on the comment boxes. You can also do that by private messaging me, whatever floats your boat. But with that, have a great week, and I will talk to you